Okay, now it is recording. Today we want to talk about 4 language skills, how to teach listening and speaking. Okay, now let me share it this way. That's nice. So I want everybody to look at this picture. So as we said, it's important you always start your class with the warm-up, something which it may not very related to the lesson, but you just to boost the energy in the class, just change the attitude, build up rapport, and students start to concentrate, you know what I mean? That's the aim of warm-up. Okay, so we have 2 skills in language, receptive and productive. Who can tell me what's the difference between receptive and productive? Receptive language and receptive skills and productive skills. What's the difference? Any ideas? Yeah, sure.
May I?
Of course.
Receptive skills, when you perceive, are those skills which you use when you perceive information, like listening and reading. And productive skills is when you give the information. So you can do it in writing, then it is writing, or you can do it orally, then those are speaking skills.
Bravo. So receptive, you receive the knowledge. Productive, you produce the knowledge. So through which skills we receive it? As you said, listening and reading.
And reading.
And outputs through
Speaking and writing.
So that's why they put it in 2 categories, receptive skills and productive skills. For each productive skills, definitely we need receptive skills. We need to study, we need to listen. Then we can produce what we learn. So is it possible you teach each skills like only listening, only writing, only speaking, only reading in the class? Is it possible? Today, I want to teach you only listening. No, it's not. Why not, Olga?
Because even if you train your students' listening skills, well, somehow they will either respond to you orally, or you will give them some handouts where they will need to fill in the gaps or something. Then it will have to do something a bit with reading, a bit with writing. So you can focus on one of the skills, but it can't be refined and purely just one skill, only listening or only reading.
Right.
So it always involves all the other.
Bravo. So that we call it integrated skills. Interaction of 4 main languages all together. So when you plan, it's impossible. You say, today I only want to teach grammar. Only I want to teach listening. It's impossible. So we call it integrated skills. So even for your assignment for 4 skills is integrated skills. How you use listening to improve their speaking, how to use reading skills to improve your students' writing skills. But in learning language, listening is very important. Why is that? Why is listening an important skill in learning language? Okay. Do you have any experience to share with us? Then I get back to Olga.
I think that. Do you hear me?
Yes, Malihe. Oh, okay. Yes, Malihe wants to talk. Okay, go ahead, Malihe.
I think that listening provides us with exposure, expose our students to the input, and somehow it provides input for students, so it is important.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Cara, what do you think?
I think listening skills is one of the first skills that children often learn, and I find not all the time, but I find a lot of students, that's one of the first skills I start picking up when they're learning a new language. And it's more, you can learn it more passively too by just immersing yourself with the music or being in an environment where people are speaking that language. Um, as well as like purposely sitting down and trying to like listen and watch but I find it's one of the beginning skills people tend to kind of start excelling at the start.
Thank you. Yes, Olga, what about you?
Well, I really like what Kara has just said because it's so very much different from our experience. Because in my country, listening is uh, the hardest skill to acquire. I mean,
Mm,
listening skills in a foreign language, because our system was built up so that at school, very few students have exposure to authentic listening materials. Of course, now they can use internet and so on, but they need to be motivated to do so. That's why normally the students can read, understand something which is written, but it's very difficult for them to perceive that kind of information. Plus, my generation, those who are younger, it is easier, but for them. But my generation, they find it very difficult to perceive the information that they hear. But on the other hand, why is it important? Because when you come to a new country, Canada, for example, I come to Canada, I hear English everywhere. I'm lucky to understand it, to be able to understand it. But for most people, I know people from my country, Ukrainians, for them it's a total disaster because they can't understand everything and they feel frustrated and panic stricken because they're
yeah,
surrounded by some noises and they can't understand anything. So when they see something written, at least it is easier for them. They can translate it
read it,
using Google
right.
Translator, well, whatever. So, but listening, why it is so important. And even when you look at the demands to the immigration exams, listening are scheduled higher than, um, is supposed to be higher than other skills. Because first of all, you need to be able to understand what you are being told. Because people will most likely talk to you rather than write to you, first of all, everywhere.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's
Thank you
why
very
it's
much.
the primary skill. Thank you.
That's a primary skill, and that's the way even bit children learn their native or mother tongue. But in our classes, we are looking for active listeners. Active listeners is like you need response. If you're only as a teacher, if you're the only one who talk all the time, it's like mass media, listening to radio. How how long you can concentrate while you're listening to the news? For a while, but you cannot concentrate all the time. But if you're involved in the conversation, it helps you to concentrate more. So we are looking for, or actually, we are working with our students to make them active listeners. So ask them questions. And then when you plan, you see, for this lesson, how can I engage my students? Even for your online classes, we always need to think about the kind of exercise that engage my students all the time. To be sure they receive the message, they understand it. So even for receiving, I ask them, we need to ask them some questions. For understanding, just saying, what do you think? If I only ask any questions and nobody says something, does it mean all of them learn? Yeah, no.
No, they don't all learn.
No, but nobody asks questions. So it's me, it's the teacher. We always should prepare questions based on the target of the class, target of the lesson, start asking questions just to check if they understood, evaluate how well they learn it. Next session, again, we flash back and ask questions, how well they can remember. So for all these stages, we need to write in our lesson plan, what are the activities for each? For concept checking, for evaluating, assisting, and remembering. But what kind of activities? Even sounds are important in language. Can I give you an example for sounds? Which carries a meaning, actually. It's only sound, but it carries meaning. Yes, Olga.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it.
For
Yes, Tara.
example,
Such as like intonations and word stress and things like that.
Bravo. Tones, intonations, exactly. And even sounds like If you hear it, So what do you think? What it means to you?
Something positive.
yummy, for example.
Yummy. Yeah, yeah, that's it. And how, in English, especially in English, if the stress of a word, if some words, if you change the stress of the word in that stress of a syllable, the meaning change, right? Right, record, desert, dessert. There are many examples in English language. So it's important to work on it. What about the stress on the word in a sentence? Like we were talking in conversation activities, webinar. Like yes, Olga, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
Uh,
go.
if my Phoenix bugs you, just ignore me.
No, no,
So,
no, 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 no.
uh,
Go ahead. I like it actually.
oh, thank you. So, basically, by stressing certain words in a sentence, you can focus students or, well, your interlocutors' attention on something. So you show what is important. Well,
Mm-hmm.
for example, oh, this is my pen. Oh no, this is my pen, right? Like normally, pronouns are not stressed, but if you want to focus somebody's attention on it to emphasize it, you would stress it, right? Like, oh
Yes.
no, it's my pen.
It's
Like for
my pen.
example,
Yeah. Oh no, it's my pen. Exactly. So according to your message that you want to share with your listeners, you change the stress of a word in a sentence. It's good to practice with the students. It's good to practice with the students. Exactly. So, what was the very first step for teaching? Put the students in the context. We talk, if we put the students into context, they can share their experience, they can share their knowledge, and they will receive it better. They learn it better because they can imagine the context. How we can contextualize, how we can put the students in the context. Using charts, asking questions. Have you ever been to the Wonderland? Have you ever been on a beach? What about camping? So they start thinking about Wonderland or beach or camping, asking questions, showing them pictures. Put the topic on the board. How can, like, save your neighborhood? So to start thinking about neighborhood and save, so to start thinking about problems, then solutions. The context, sometimes you need to describe the context. This is a story about Jack. Actually, Jack recently faced a problem at school. So you describe the context. So they start to think about Jack, and then they become curious. What's the problem, Joe, for Jack in school? Then start reading or listen to it. Listen to the audio. Role playing, you start a role playing, and then like job interview. Okay, I own a institute. I want to hire 3 people. These are the qualities I'm looking for. So what kind of questions? Come on, give me the questions while in my interview. So they start talking about the interview questions. So, and then you, as an owner of the institute, you start role playing. before playing the listening for the students, so you put them in the context, then there should be a reason for any activities that you have in the class. Why I need, as a student, why I need to listen to this audio. You give them the reason. I want you to listen and answer to these questions. I want you to listen to this audio and fill in the blanks. I want you to listen and tell me what's odd about it, about the story, or which parts you like. Do you have the same experience? I want you to listen and act. This listening is good for pronunciation. I want you to listen and repeat. So there should be a reason for all activity in the class, all activities in the class. It's not just like, okay, everybody, listen to this audio. Then later, I put some questions on the board and you're going to answer. Oh, it doesn't work. We need to help our students to concentrate. Give them the activity first, the exercise first. They know which part they need to concentrate. But still, we need to be sure they could understand at least 70% of the audio. What I mean by 70%, if there are too many new words, they won't understand anything. They cannot answer to the questions. But still, I want my students to have critical thinking, try for their learning, try to guess the meaning. So I'm not going to teach all the new words, but the key words, the words that block their understanding. So we need to pre-teach the key words, the words that help them to understand, to get the idea of the audio. Or if they don't know it, they cannot understand it. That's why for the keywords, there's another jargon that is called block words. So put them in the context, pre-teach the keywords, not all the words, because they can guess some of the words in the context. Pre-teach the keywords, then provide the activity. So you listen and do what? Many different listening activities, like they listen to some part of it, then you stop. For example, they listen to Jack, what happened to Jack, and then you pause it and say, can you predict what Jack would do in this situation? You encourage them to talk. That's another kind of activity you can give them. That's always, I mean, it's not always answering to the questions or fill in the blanks, match A and B. No, it could be just which part you like, share your experience, predict. So, follow-up activities. Here I said, listen, answer, listen, respond, listen, scan and find specific words. Different activity based on the goal or terminal objective of the lesson. But still, for listening the skills, we have two kinds of listening in the class: intensive and extensive. What is the difference between intensive and extensive? Anybody knows? Intensive listening, extensive listening. What's the difference? Yes, Olga?
Well, to be honest, this is the most difficult part for me to understand. I mean, those things like the difference between reactive and responsive. I'm still struggling to understand it. As for intensive and extensive, well, in my understanding, intensive when you focus on details, so they know that they need to fill in the gaps, for example, or they need to learn to listen for specific information to be able to give the answer to the specific question. Extensive, when they need to understand um, the topic globally and connect it somehow to the external knowledge, sociocultural information. Well, Do I get it right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other ideas?
I'm not sure if this is correct either. Actually, I haven't come across before this course intensive or extensive before. Intensive, I would think, is more specific, is my guess. Like it's similar line to Olga, but like a specific activity, specific keywords, or fill in the blank of the sentence. Like I find it more maybe probably like that. An extensive, maybe more broad, like more of a general fluency understanding, perhaps.
Bravo. That's completely correct. You know, we have two approaches for teaching receptive skills, top down and bottom up, right? Top down and bottom up. I'm looking for that actually for here. Top down and bottom up. Top down is working on comprehension. Bottom up is working on linguistic part. Top down, like listen and tell me what happened. Listen and tell me an answer to these questions. And they're general comprehension questions. So mostly it's based on the comprehension aspect. You ask them some questions, put them in the context, and then they listen to the audio and tell you what happened, where did he go, what did he do, when was it. We call it top down. Bottom up is linguistic part, like talking about the tenses. It's past tense, past perfect, past continuous, specific words, adjectives, or adverbs, prefixes, suffixes, articles. So they do some activities based on linguistic part, or conditionals complete the second part. When you work on top-down and bottom-up both, you work on comprehension and linguistic parts. They learned all the words. They practice the grammar. It's intensive. But if you only practice the comprehension part, then less like listening to the novel, audiobooks. Because some part of it actually. Maybe they don't understand the exact meaning of some words, but they understand the concept and they start talking about it. Like listening to music. So it's top-down comprehension. That's extensive. Intensive is based on like an example is intensive listening, like the listening of the course books. So they need to learn everything about it. The new words, pronunciation, the structure, everything. Syntax, everything. And they even do that, they role play, they repeat sometimes. So that's intensive. But you ask him, go and watch the movie. Watch a movie, watch the cartoons, and then come back and talk about the character and the event. That's extensive. Usually extensive activities are longer, okay? They are longer. So that is top down. Is that clear now? Yep, good. Great. Okay, so for your lesson plan, process part, teaching any skills has 3 stages: pre, while, post. For listening, we call it pre-listening activities, while listening activities, post-listening activities. So when you plan how you put them in the context, which words you pre-teach to help them to understand, and how you present as pre-teaching activities. While as a part that how you practice for listening, top down, bottom up. So while what kind of questions you ask them to check their comprehension, their understanding, what kind of activities you give them to check their understanding. Then how do you check with the new words, new structures? Bottom up. That all goes to while. Put them students in pairs to practice while. And what's the role of the teacher? Monitoring. Listen to them in your online classes. You put them in breakouts. So you go to the breakouts, listen to them. If they have any questions, you will answer. You check their understanding. So it's all practicing, practicing, practicing. It goes to while activity, teaching activity. Post-teaching activities for this skill. Post-listening activities is the part that you get the feedback. The student starts to either role play, talk about the audio, or with the part that they like most and give you reason why I like it or why I don't like it, predict what happened in the next part, even talk about the audio. So that's the part you get the feedback. That goes for post. In post, you have a reflection on your teaching too. If still students cannot do the activity, cannot talk about the audio, it means something wrong with either while the practice part or even the part that you present. So that's a reflection on your teaching as well. I don't want to say 100% should have a good production. No. But a successful class between 70 to 80 or maybe 85% of the students can answer and have a good production. That's a successful class. Okay? But if you see this challenge, students still cannot role play the audio, and that's a part of the assignment. So we get back to while again. We need to practice more. You need to change it. You have plan B. I prepare worksheet for my students. So they go through the worksheet. They have part of the sentence and they have to complete the rest. So still, as I said, always have plan B. If you can't get the good production from your students, not acceptable feedback. So what's your plan B? Prepare another kind of activities, maybe games, maybe worksheet. Maybe they will listen to the audio, but this time actually it's not audio, it's video. So they have the picture too, like a video. So that's going to be your plan B. So what's next? You practice in the class. What happened when the students get home? And tomorrow, when they get back to the class, I don't want to say 50%, but 30% they will forget because they didn't practice at the time that they were at home. So you need to think for assignment. Assignment related to what you've taught in the class. If you work on the listening and speaking part, so you need to prepare an audio and ask them to listen to the audio and record your voice and send it to me, or do this activity, or write this paragraph, complete this paragraph. So still the practice at home. So basically in the process part of your lesson plan, you write pre-teaching activity, while teaching activity, how I practice, and post, how I get the feedback, and what is the assignment, what the students how they are going to practice at home. What's their homework? Okay, guys, is that clear enough? Any ideas you want to share?
I think
There's
it's
something
clear.
I was wondering.
Thank you, Malihe. Yes, Kara.
So maybe too, because I teach teenagers and I find adults sometimes do their homework more, but it's really hard sometimes to keep the students accountable for doing homework at home. It's something I always am trying to find ideas with. Does anybody have any ideas that they use or that they had it as a student?
Yeah.
Accountability, yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, what do you think? Bad kids. We are going to have a session actually for how to teach children. But Olga, you want to share something? Go ahead.
Mhm. In my country, most of the teenagers are motivated by the marks they get, and if they don't do their home tasks, those marks are going to be poor. But I mostly work at university officially, but I was tutoring a lot of teenagers, and there I had to motivate them because I wasn't actually giving them marks. So I tried to find out what they're interested in because it can be different. Some of them, a lot of them, love video games, for example. I believe I provided that example. Like you need to discover what they like and try to somehow connect that, well, or it's difficult when you have a group, right? So what is popular now? What are teenagers crazy about? What is a popular TV show that everyone is watching? And somehow link it to it. For example, I'm not sure whether you're teaching like TESOL or TESOL, or are you teaching to the English to native speakers?
I
Because
do both. I have a ESL class, English language learner class, and I also have just a regular public
well,
school
I have
class.
no experience of teaching English to native speakers, obviously, but as for non-native speakers, motivate them through that. So if they want there is a popular TV show, they want to watch it in the original, because you can provide examples when some jokes are not translated into other language. For example, play on words. There are so many examples of play on words in English. And if you watch it in translation, those jokes can't be transferred to another language. And so you don't understand the joke. But when you watch it in the original, you do understand it. So, you can hear the voices of the actual actors rather than voiceover presented by somebody else. And you can understand the atmosphere of the movie or TV show better. Well, if it is a video game, again, you can learn a lot of new words from there. I know that sometimes my students knew words which I didn't know, different potions, for example,
Yeah, I
if they
know,
were
I know.
interested
Thank
in
you.
some fantasy game. Okay, yes, sorry, thank you.
No,
So just
thank you.
find
Thank you very
something
much.
to motivate them intrinsically, to sum it up. So trigger their intrinsic motivation. That is the only way, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Also, back to my experience, it's very important to know your students and also their age group. Nowadays, we know they love technology. They don't like to write. So why not we look for some apps or sites that with the help of them, we make that assignment more fun, like Kahoot. Do you use Kahoot? So in Kahoot, you assign, you say, okay, I want to make a, for example, this is the topic, and this is kind of the questions that you have, and then put it in games. And then you have to share the link with all the students. So students, when they log in, instead of just writing and answering to those questions, it's like a game. They have either the type or to click on the answer. Then they get points and shows who in the class for tomorrow. You have all the answers sent to you. For tomorrow, you can say which one of you had the higher points. So that's the kind of using technology. It makes it like game, and they encourage them, motivate them to study because they want to get more points. You make it fun. Without technology, nowadays it's really, really hard to teach to the teenagers and even kids. All the time they have their cell phones, they have their video games at home. So we need to use that aspect for our teaching. That is modern teaching. What else? Let them be creative. Yeah, I will. Okay, we're gonna have a session. We're gonna have a session on the sites and apps. Yes, there's a webinar on that. I will tell you. And the one that I mentioned is Kahoot. Kahoot. That's the one. Sure. What else? Let them be, yeah, exactly. Let them be creative. So don't put your students, back to my experience, I don't want to put my students in a box. Everybody should do this worksheet. If I want them to write, I make it different. I said, okay, for example, there's some expressions and tenses that I want my student use both. So I said, okay, for this term or for this course, I want each one of you choose a character. It could be your monster, it could be your alien, it could be your Barbie, whatever you like, but draw it for me. They're kids. They make funny things. Okay, so that's your character for this term, for this course. What do you want to call it? And they make a name. Okay, but now imagine, where was he last summer? And then it said, last summer? Yeah, last summer. Let's think. What was he doing last summer in August? Because I wanted to write or to speak in past tense. If you ask him, what did you do yesterday? Where did you go yesterday? And they start using past tense, that's going to be very robotic and mechanical. Maybe some of them, they don't like it. But you ask them, okay, for next session, I want everybody to talk about your character, your monster, your Barbie, your whatever, and tell me what happened to him last weekend. Okay? I'm waiting for your wonderful stories. I really want to know. And you show enthusiasm. So when they get home, to start thinking about it, to make if the funniest or more exciting. That works for me. That works for me. Okay, you wrote something. Sure, I'll go. Kari, you wanted to say something? I guess while I was talking, somebody raised hands. It's okay. Everything is fine.
It was me, but then I texted it in the chat box, so thank you.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, anything else? So as we said, for top-down strategies, you put the students in the context, pre-teach the keywords, talk about the topic, even you can ask them about the mood, ask about main idea. Sometimes based on the audio, you pause and ask them to predict. And we put them in pairs, in group to practice, and then you get the feedback and you prepare homework to practice at home. Even for top down, that was for top down. Even for bottom up, you can work on syllables, stress, or word
Yeah.
groups.
Can I
Sure.
see the previous syllabus that you could
Yes.
put it
Go ahead.
again?
Yes,
We are
Maliha.
writing. Yeah, thank you
Sure.
very much. Just give me a minute for writing.
Okay, you can take a picture actually. Snapshot. You can take a picture. Sure. And for linguistic part, like here, pronunciation, syllable, stress, even how to spell the word. Sometimes you work on definition. So intonation of the sentence, that's going to be underlined, the stress part. So that works
Thank
on
you.
bottom up.
I take the picture. Again, I take the picture of this one too.
Okay, great. Good. What about the speaking skills? So when do you work on the speaking skills in your classes? Yes, Olga.
Basically every activity, within my experience, somehow
Yeah.
involves developing speaking.
That's
example, the
right.
warming up stage. You can ask them how they are doing. You can provide a picture, ask them for their opinion. It's all speaking. Then even listening part, you ask questions, you give you get the feedback, speaking again.
Exactly.
So during while listening stage, for
Um,
example, post
all the
listening
class you're
stage,
working on
again,
speaking.
yeah.
Right.
So speaking all the time.
Exactly. But you prepare specific activity for speaking skill, like monologue. Hmm. You said it could be planned or unplanned. Like you put the topic on the word on the board, and you know your students can talk about this topic. They have some experience. So I said, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. Then I want you to talk about this topic for 2 or 3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes, not long. For lower level, okay, about my everyday, my daily activity. So tell me what you do every day. 1 minute think, 1 minute think, then start talking. Okay? So it could be unplanned or sometimes planned. You give them a topic, they get home, they think about it, they Google it, and then come back and talk for 4 minutes or 3 minutes. So specifically, you work on speaking, their intonation, their stress, and also body language. Also, body language fluency, how fluent with no pauses, especially foreigners when you teach in the language as a foreign language. So how fluent they are and accuracy. Okay, accuracy is also important. How accurate they are. So there are different aspects of speaking that you practice during speaking activities. Dialogue, how they continue the conversation. How do they socialize in different situations? In the store, in the library, in the subway, at school. Put them in different situations and how they can continue the conversations. How they make even WH questions, because yes, no questions, it cut the conversations. I want to stop it. Yes, no. But how you can continue the conversation for 2, 3 minutes. What are the skills? Your body language, the sounds even. Okay? So you're working on appropriacy, correct vocabulary, correct functions. Some functions are like register, formal, informal. Some functions you only use with your friends, but not with your teacher in the class. So formal speaking, informal speaking, and grammar, of course, fluency, body language, and readiness. So they don't look at each other. These examples are like for foreigners. Don't look at each other like robots. Somebody talks, the other parts only listen, and then they said, "Okay, your turn," and the other parts start to talk. No. So how do you respond? Okay, just make it natural. How you practice with them? If they are in the environment, like if people that study English, as Olga said, English in Canada, so they have the exposure. But what if you speak Spanish in Canada? That's going to be different, right? What if you speak Arabic in Canada? What if you speak Portuguese in Canada? It's going to be different. So we need to prepare videos, audios for our students to watch, to see their body language, because body language is different. Intonation is different. Even pace of speaking is different. Just listen to Italian. The pace of speaking is much faster than English. But listen to the Persian, the pace is much slower. It's like this. But English is like that. And I believe Italian is like this, maybe. Okay? So even the pace, they need exposure. So for a foreigner, everyday videos, podcasts, audios, to become better, more fluent, more accurate in the speaking. So again, for teaching, speaking, or working in a speaking activity, pre, while, post. and relevant homework. So put them in the context. Today's lesson is about talking about environment. You start asking about the environment. In your class, you can put the posters about the environment. Okay. In your online classing, make PowerPoint, and they see slides. They watch a short video. They listen to part of the news. You put the topic. What can I do to save my environment? It depends on the level of the students, you know? So you put them in the context. I want them in this speaking session, they use conditionals, if clauses. So first and second conditionals. So you need to pre-teach that grammar to them. You need to review conditional. So you review conditional one, part one, and conditional two. Mm-hmm. When you when you review with your students, then you start the activity while. So they already watched the video and you want them to talk about it, talk about the video, and share their own experience. Or you put some questions on the word, okay? Think about the problems that you have in your neighborhood. What can I do? Talk about your neighbors. Do they support? Do they share in different activities? Any NGOs? Fill out words in English. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing in the chat box. So you put them in pairs or in groups and you go and monitor and listen to them. And just remind them, I want you to use conditional 1 and 2. Type 1 and type 2. If clause. If clauses. While you're listening, just remind them, use conditional, use conditionals. Then it's post. Now let's sit around. Let everybody in your online classes, everybody are in the main hall. Let's talk about it. Tell me about your environment. So who want to be first? Who's volunteer? Some students are shy. They don't want to talk. Give them time, but put them in groups and give them a role. So when you have 4 people in a group, one is like different roles. One is presenter, one is a secretary, one is the assistant, the other one is timekeeper. You have 5 minutes. So we said, okay, we still have 3 minutes. Secretary, take notes. Presenter is the one who stand and talk what we have done in the group. Assistant is the one to control everything. Okay, you talk. Conditionals, we don't use conditionals, so just check everything. You can give them any roles, but they should have responsibility in a group. Otherwise, sharp students talked, and shy and not very sharp students, they just listen. But when they have role in a group, they're part of the activity. Basically, you give them motivation to engage. Suppose you get the feedback. Maybe they role play, maybe they talk, it depends on the activity. But what about home? What about home? Today's lesson was about environment. You find a video about environment, ask them to watch it and write or record their voice and send you what's their idea or any activities that you give them. Or if they can, say, I want you to use your cell phone. Use your cell phone and make a short video about your neighborhood environment. Then share it with the class. Email it to me. We're going to share it in the class and you are going to explain to us. That is something different. Creativity. You're working on creativity. So this is fun. I take my cell phone and make a video and I stand and talk about it. That's fun. Even adults love it. What about the kids? And sometimes you need to ask the parents to help them. So you have to send an email and explain. I want to encourage my students to be more active. So could you please help them to make a short video about their neighborhood? and they love to. Believe me, I don't want to say all of them, but most of them love to. Yes, Olga, go ahead.
Thank you so much for sharing such interesting ideas. To be
Sure.
honest, I don't have much experience of working with children. I mostly worked with adults, young adults, and occasionally I had children and teenagers as private students. I was a tutor to them, and I remember a girl. She was like a young teenager, about 11 something, and she used to come up with creative tasks. When I gave her some task, and once she shot that video, I told her to write about her home, and she shot a whole video how she was going from school to home, and she was telling me about what she was seeing and what her home looked from the outside. Then she went in and told about everything inside, and I was just taken aback because I didn't ask her to do that. But
Oh,
she came up
see,
with it on her
yeah.
own, and it was wonderful. And I thought, wow, kids love it. I should be more creative myself. So
That's right.
thank you. It's
Children
very
are very,
interesting.
children actually are very creative. Storytelling also helps them to improve their speaking. If they have no ideas for the story, you can start the story. For lower level, ask them, okay, last summer, I went to Paris. Then in Paris, I met. Yeah, add each one of you add one sentence to my story to complete the story. So even for lower levels, they can add one or two sentences. That's fine. Higher levels and say, okay, this is the story last summer, so they can tell you the whole story. So storytelling is that it's working on critical thinking and creativity both, and it's fun activity in the class. So back to your lesson plan. You need to write the introduction, how you start your class, terminal objective, enabling objective. So what's the terminal objective? Students become more fluent talking about environmental problems, or listening to the news and discuss the main features of the news. It depends. And what else? Enabling objectives. So what you need to teach to get to that terminal objective. And the topic of the lesson, all the activities should go around the topic. The topic is environment, so all the skills, all activities should go around the topic. Number of the students, level of the students, age, so you know this background. But my point is, sorry. My point is in process, where is it? Here. In activity and process part, you need to write pre-while post for each skill. If you maybe sometimes speaking skills is the post part of your listening skills because all the skills are integrated. You know what I'm saying? Maybe writing is the post activity of your reading because all are integrated. In the listening part, you already put them in the context, right? So you don't need to put them in the context for each skills because already they know the topic is environment. So while you're writing when you will write your lesson plan, remember all the skills are integrated. Don't make it separate. How you use your listening skill to practice speaking, how you use your speaking to start the reading, and how you use reading to encourage them to write. That's integrated skills. But basically, pre, while, post, put them in the context, practice, get the feedback, and homework, home assignment, how they practice at home. You need to attach in appendix, attach all you need for your visual aids, all you need to the assignment. This is the text, this is the audio, this is the reading, this is the worksheet, these are the pictures, this is my PowerPoint, this is the link that I use. So everything should be attached. Good? Any questions? Let me see the chat box. Kara, thank you. You've sent Oh, Flip? Yes, to sign a video? Yes, Flipper is really good. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
No problem. I learned it from other people too, so it passes along.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, exactly. Okay, any other questions or any ideas you want to share?